What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Somewhat Distracted podcast. I believe this is episode 6. I might be
Pretty
wrong,
sure.
but I'm pretty sure that's right.
Pretty sure.
We got Tyler in the building. We got a fucking motorcycle outside my
I
window
am
making
here.
a bunch of noise and it's pissing me off, but that's okay.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if that picked up on the mic, but...
I didn't hear it.
Alright,
Yeah, I didn't hear it.
so, anyway, tell me, since the last podcast, which was like maybe 2 months ago, maybe a month and a half ago, how much
Yeah,
anime
kind of a bigger gap than
have you watched?
last time. Well, I mean, new stuff, really not much at all. Like really not anything. But rewatching a lot of stuff. I've been doing that because my sister has been watching a lot of like pretty popular anime that I've been getting her to watch. So I've been
Right.
watching it with her. So we went through actually quite a lot of shit. I think the last time we talked about it, we were watching Haikyuu still, because her and I told her I wanted her to watch it, so we watched that. We watched all 4 seasons of that, and then pretty sure I'm trying to think. I'm pretty sure right after that is when we went into My Hero Academia, um, because it was. I don't know. I mean, it seems like a pretty easy show to just kind of dive into because it's superheroes. I mean, if
Yeah,
you're a
it's
fan
not
of
too
like Marvel and
complex,
shit
you
like
know?
that, yeah, if you're a fan of like Marvel and shit like that, it's like, oh yeah, this could be cool. I mean, it's pretty hard to make this boring, right?
Yeah.
So we watch all of the current seasons except for the newest one that's airing. Um, so that's what is that? 4 seasons? I think so.
Yeah, it was the fifth one is airing now. Is that right?
Yeah. Okay. And the first time I watched it, oh, excuse me. The first time I watched it through, um, I watched all 4 seasons in the dub, the English dub,
Yeah.
and I like the dub for My Hero Academia. That was one of the few shows that I was still consistently keeping up with dub after I basically like I don't want to say converted, I don't want to sound like that kind of guy, but like switched over to mainly watching sub shit. That was the only really like dub I was consistently keeping up with. I remember I was like there was like 2 episodes left to air for the dub and the sub was already out and I was like, nah, I'll wait for the dub. But this time around we watched it through in the sub because I just told her that I would rather her watch it that way and I've never experienced it with a sub. So it was still really good. Like My Hero Academia is a great show. It really is amazing.
From the outside
And
looking in, it seems like the most generic 8 out of 10 show you could possibly
I
imagine.
mean, well, generic and 8 out of 10 don't really match up, do they?
Well,
Uh,
I mean, I wouldn't
it's
necessarily
it's a really
say that.
cliche concept, and it does not do anything like it doesn't do anything really out of the ordinary at all in terms of what it's trying to do. Like it really doesn't accomplish that, but its execution is where it really hits. I mean, at least in my opinion, like some of the most emotional moments that I can think of are like from that show. It's just for one, it's a Studio Bones series, and you know me with Studio Bones, they just make great shit. They did Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood and um, a lot of shit. Like they did Soul Eater as well. They're just really good at making animation look consistently pretty. Like it's not inconsistent.
Yeah.
And then also it's got a Yuki Hayashi soundtrack, which on top of that, I mean that's everyone knows You Say Run, everyone knows that's like probably the most iconic fucking OST from a show ever. Because I remember when it first came out, everyone was like, You Say Run goes with everything, and you go on YouTube and you see it with like random anime scenes, whatever. Um, that combination plus like the plot is just consistently above average. Um, to me, it's just really it's a really well done example of like a cliche concept. Because you take something like superheroes and there's hundreds of iterations of that. Because I mean, it's been a
Yeah.
thing since like the 50s, 60s, whatever, with like the original Superman and all that, and Batman.
There's been a
and
lot
whatever.
of really
But
interesting takes, not just in anime, on those types of shows, like generic superhero shows that have been revamped. Like, I think of My Hero Academia. I think of Invincible. It's not an anime, but it is animated. I think of The Boys.
yeah,
Um, Yeah, the you almost thought like 10 years ago, I mean, like before the whole Marvel thing, it was kind of a dead genre, and then it kind of just revived itself. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, tell me this about My Hero Academia. I know it's on its fifth season, but is the manga still ongoing?
I'm pretty sure, yeah. I'm pretty sure the manga's still going. Like, I'm pretty sure it's relatively ahead still from where the anime's adapting. Like, I'm pretty sure there's a few arcs ahead of it.
So how many?
Um,
So is it like the generic like 24 episodes per season?
yeah, it's a seasonal. The first season was 12,
Okay.
but then after that, it's been nothing but 24s.
So that's a good, considering
And
it's not done, that's a good runtime. Yeah.
yeah, and there's that. I mean, it's one of those shows that picked up so much traction. You should expect a season every year, which there has been one every year. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't know. The first season aired in 2016.
To me, it's
Um,
kind of like a. I know I haven't even watched this show. I haven't even watched Naruto, but it seems like a Naruto replacement as far as its place in the
what do you
scene.
mean by that?
As far as one of the big
I don't
shows,
know
because Naruto
because
is one of the big shows. It ended. One Piece and Bleach are
yeah,
still there, even though Bleach is kind of on hiatus, but coming back.
Bleach was supposed to come back.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
it
I don't
seems
know
like
when that'll be.
it kind of took its mantle as one of the big shows.
Well, I mean, when you think about the argument of like, because the big three, like you just said, Naruto, One Piece, Bleach, they were the big three because they were like the huge long running TV shows that were basically all over television for years. Um, and I don't know if like people always say like, well, this is the new big three and stuff like that. And it's like it's
I
weird to
wouldn't
think about it like that
necessarily
because
like whittle it down to just three. Like there are, yeah,
well,
obviously,
that's the yeah.
you can talk about Attack on Titan, you can talk about other shows, but it's like one of the big shows. I wouldn't necessarily say it's like one of three.
Yeah, it's a lot harder to say
Yeah,
something as like a new big three because we don't even have anything like that type of atmosphere anymore.
yeah.
Those were, that was still when a lot of anime was going on television instead of streaming and all that. And so now we're in the era of streaming services and all and that type of system. It's hard to say that something is, quote unquote the big three, especially when like you said there's so many shows coming out now, like so many. It's actually hard to keep up at this point.
Mhm.
But in terms of it being like in terms of My Hero like solidifying itself as like one of the big shows of this generation, I 100% agree. I think like other than the fact that it has a pretty huge fan base, I mean I don't want to word it like this, but it literally still seems like it's being underrated. People are saying that it's like like you said, on the outside in, it looks like it could be generic. But I think even the people who like, I don't know, watch 2 episodes or something, are like, nah, this is boring. I'm
No, but like
done. Like,
just because something is generic, or just because you assume something is generic, doesn't necessarily mean it's bad.
yeah,
Yeah,
and that's the thing. Like, if you, I will admit that the first season really isn't. It's really not all that. Like, I don't want to have to sell it this way because this is like the worst way to sell something. But season two is really where it like, where you realize, holy shit, this is something not average.
okay.
Because season one is good, but it's a lot more, you know, stereotypical generic anime than like season two, three, four, because all these characters are new and everyone just seems like, oh, well, I'm someone with this superpower and I'm someone with this superpower,
Hmm.
but that's all you see from them. And then there's like one really good moment like towards the end of the first season, and maybe that's what hooks you, but I didn't really get like fully hooked until season two. But even when I wasn't, like it still keeps your attention span.
So
It never really gets boring in my opinion.
so what kind is like when you're talking about the hook? Is it something crazy that happens, or is it a tone shift? Like what kind of like
Well,
hook are we talking about?
I wouldn't say tone shift because in the first like 2 episodes, there's already someone like very close to dying.
Okay.
Actually, in the first episode, someone almost dies like on screen. Um, but it's more so like it sets this bar for like the first like 9 episodes, and then the bar gets raised like three more steps like on episode 11, 12, whatever, because it just there's just this crazy fight scene, and the animation goes bonkers. I hate that I just used that word. And the soundtrack hits, and it's just like everything just meshes together. I love it. And then you get to like season 2, and there's obviously like legendary moments. I'm sure you've even like glimpsed before,
I've seen
just scrolling
GIFs.
through YouTube or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure you've seen it before. Like, just it has a lot more going for it than it looks like. And it's just, man, I don't know. It's something about it, man. Like, I always overlook it whenever I think of like what my quote unquote favorite shows are, because I mean,
It's because it
as
seems
you
like
know,
too easy of a choice, you know?
well, maybe I don't know about
Yeah.
it's more like
Like
I think of,
you think about it as like that, even though I think it's unfair to categorize it like this, but it seems like that normie show where that everyone
exact. Okay,
watches.
yeah, that's a perfect way to say it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It seems like you're just saying it because it's popular.
Yeah.
But like when I think of like, some of my favorite shows, I think of like Gintama, I think of like Haikyuu, Run with the Wind. Like, those aren't I mean, other than like Haikyuu, those aren't exactly like the massive fan base shows that like Attack on Titan and like, the stuff airing now. But My Hero's up there. Like, I don't know where I'd put it, but like it's up there, top 10, top 5 maybe. It is really something crazy, and I always overlook it because I'm like, man, this is really good every season. But every time I finish the season, I'm like, yeah, that was what I expected. Just
Yeah.
top tier shit. And then I'm like, all right, time to watch other stuff because I just expect it at this point.
So it sets the
Because it
bar
really
so high that it doesn't leave you any room for surprise. Is that what you're saying?
it really, yeah, honestly, like it's not like, I mean, obviously I am wowed every season because that's just the type of show it is. But at the same time, it's like that was the quality that should have been, since season 1. Um,
You ever
so
heard the
it doesn't really
phrase under
surprise me.
promise over deliver? That's what really kind of
Yeah,
leaves that mark on you, that when you're like, wow, like I wasn't expecting that. But they're over promising and they're delivering. Yeah.
yeah. Um, I don't know. Rewatching it like kind of reminded me just how damn good My Hero Academia is. I think people kind of on the surface, whenever they talk about why they don't like it, I'm not trying to like start an argument with people and saying, well, you're not allowed to not like it, blah blah blah. But like whenever I hear people complain about why it's quote unquote bad to them, their first things they go to is, well, the main character's annoying. Everyone's generic. It's really boring. It's like I don't know where they get that from, except for the first point. Yes, the main character is kind of annoying at first, but it's kind of like an Asta situation
Yeah.
in terms of like he's a big whiny baby, but he eventually like stops being big whiny baby. Um, so I guess in that sense, I can see why people would say that, but it's like the gradual development of them becoming likable that I think is just, it works. And plus, think about it this way: imagine like a Kirito style character where right off the bat they're just edgy, OP, asshole, don't care. Like,
Yeah, you find it
I don't
hard to
want
relate
that.
to them.
I don't want that. Yeah, I mean, like this isn't a spoiler. Like this happens in the first episode. The main character is born in a world with the superpowers in that world are called quirks, and he's born without one, and that's like not the norm. Everyone's usually
Man, they could have
born with one or
chosen a
develops
better
one
word for
eventually.
that.
Yeah, I don't know, but regardless, the main character is born without any sort of power in a world that's basically ruled by
Oh wow, that's
superpowers.
literally Asta. What the
Um,
fuck?
yeah, and he basically like entrusted with power like early on, and he has to learn to like control the power he's given because he doesn't have any fucking power to begin with, so he doesn't know how to control it yet and whatever. And so you eventually, as the character grows, you kind of grow with him, and it's like it's nice. It's nice. um and then obviously it's not just the main character that is likable. Like I really enjoy the My Hero Academia cast. There's a lot of characters that have their own set screen time, development, whatever. I mean, there are some that I really don't like, or some that just have no screen time, but they're still like considered a part of the main cast, which kind of annoys me. I kind of don't like when they do that, when like there's always these like 2 or 3 tag along characters to flesh out the cast, but they just kind of don't do anything. But they're always in like every other scene. That's kind of annoying to me, and that's like a consistent thing with a lot of shows with like big casts. but it's obviously, it's unavoidable. But whatever. I don't know. There's few things to dislike about My Hero, in my opinion. Um, it's easily like a show anyone could enjoy. It's really hard to not sell it to someone.
I mean, but that makes sense based on its
Hmm.
reputation. Like it is the show that everyone likes. So I would expect that. Yeah.
Yeah. So we rewatched, or I rewatched. My sister watched all 4 seasons, and she was like, "This is like the greatest shit ever." Oh my god! Like she was hooked. I was like, "Hell yeah!" Because I'm hooked, and I was rewatching it. And then just recently, me and a group of our friends watched the most recent My Hero movie that came out, and that was pretty good. Because the movies are actually pretty good too. There's 2 of them out right now, and
Are they canon?
they're both actually pretty good as well. I think so. Like I'm pretty sure, but I don't know. The most recent movie did some weird stuff that would make you think it's not canon
Okay.
because what the hell happened? Like it was kind of crazy. But I looked it up and people were saying it was canon, but it just felt weird.
I
Um,
I never
but
really know what to
yeah,
think about anime movies because like I never take the time to actually like look up if they're canon unless something like weird happens that doesn't make sense.
yeah, it is a gray area. It is.
Not that they're bad. Like
It's
obviously, if you take standalone anime movies like A Silent Voice, Your Name, like yeah, they you can't judge those based on that context. But
Yeah,
yeah,
but are they canon? If they're not, I don't care. Like they have to. I mean, they're their own thing.
yeah,
They're not tied to a series. Um, but I watched those movies and I remember liking the first My Hero movie more, I think, but the second one was still good. Um, and then I'm trying to think of like the chronological order of what I've been like quote unquote rewatching because I've been showing all these shows to my sister because that's kind of why I haven't really been watching anything on my own. Or anytime I actually want to sit down and like watch anything by myself, I'm like, my sister's like, hey, you want to keep watching the show we're watching? I'm like, whatever,
yeah.
sure, because I'm picking shows that I know I liked,
hmm
so that way I'm pretty sure she'll like them. Because sometimes she's like, well, why don't we pick a new show that like neither you or I have seen? And I'm like, because it's like like a 70-30 chance we're gonna get something that isn't good because it's just unless I've heard of it or I've seen it, I mean, I'm not gonna say like everything else is bad, but it's just like there's a lot of really weird shit out there, you know.
Have you tried any of the big
um,
ones on her, like Naruto, Bleach, One
no, but
Piece?
I do plan to at some point,
Okay.
because I mean, think about it, think about how many episodes, like both Haikyuu and My Hero Academia have 4 seasons, and other than the first season of My Hero, it's 24 episodes a season for both of
Yep.
those. And that's like, I mean, I'm really bad at math, but that's like 70 plus episodes for both of those shows. Um, so,
If it's
and I
four,
and I asked her, I was like,
yeah, that's almost 100. Yeah.
yeah, and I asked her, I was like, what if I just pick one that's like longer? Because she told me, she's like, I like the more drawn out plot that like builds up, and I'm like, oh, so you like a long plot, huh? And so I was like, how would I just pick one that's like longer next time? And she's like, all right, whatever. So potentially like maybe like a Naruto, maybe a Bleach, something like
Yeah.
that. I don't know. There's not that many. When I was thinking about it, I was like, there really isn't that many like past the like 60 episode mark, 70 episode mark. There's really not a
Yeah.
lot of like long shows other than like the big three, or like maybe like a Dragon Ball or Hitman Reborn or
Hunter x Hunter.
stuff like that. Hunter x Hunter is one of them I was
Yeah.
considering as well. Um, but yeah, so after we watched My Hero, we
Well,
watched.
why don't we come back to that and
Oh, okay, okay,
let's
okay.
alternate a little bit because I don't want to like yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of I was kind of
No,
rambling
you're
there.
good. You're good.
My bad.
Okay, so I watched. All right, so after the last podcast, I'll admit like I didn't watch anime for like a month, like
Honestly,
like
same
at
here. I
all.
was like, I watched like a couple shows, and then I was like, other than watching stuff that I've already seen with my sister, I was just like, I don't know what to watch right now, man. Like everything, nothing seems like something I want to pick up.
Yeah, and then I started watching Cowboy Bebop, and
I
I think
remember you
I
told me
mentioned
about
this
that.
last time, but
I think you did as well.
like this was the only show that I've ever completed that I didn't binge watch, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like it took me like a month to finish it, and like I couldn't bring myself to watch it more than like 3 episodes in a row, like because it didn't really hook me.
Yeah.
But not,
I heard it's kind of slow at the start, but I don't know. I haven't seen it yet.
but then like you get to the end and you're like, whoa, like hold on, back up, like like you go through the show and it adopts this really uncharacteristic type of structure based on the length because it's only 26 episodes,
Mm-hmm.
but it opts for an episodic structure, as in each episode, there are exceptions, especially towards the end and a couple in the middle. Each episode it's kind of its own thing with the same cast of characters. And
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't really, it's not really conducive for binge watching. You're like, okay, what are we doing this episode? Okay. Well, all right, well that ended in a good place. I can stop now. I don't really need to watch the next episode right now.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it was still good. It was still interesting what they were doing. And then, you get to like the midway point ish and they sprinkle in some stuff. There's like 2 episodes in a row that are related to each other. And like, oh, are we finally getting some like main story stuff? And then it goes back to the episodic stuff. I'm like, wait, hold on. When are we gonna get to the main, like, is this whole show just episodic? Like, what am I watching? The Simpsons here? Like, what's going on? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you get to the last 3 episodes and it picks up with the main story again, and you're like, I don't know how you did it, but you made it work.
So it was kind of like seeding plot, like in
Yeah,
between
it was
episodes, like
very
very
subtle,
periodically.
very, very
Okay.
subtle. And you know what it does? Instead of relying on the actual plot points, it uses these individual episodic adventures to build the characters and their relationships together. So you build a
Mm-hmm.
bond with them in that way. And then before you even realize it, like I got to like the last 3 episodes and you're like, some big shit's going down and you're like, whoa, I care all of a sudden. What the fuck? Yeah.
Yeah, I've always had issues with like even though I've done it before with multiple shows, I've always had issues with like staying interested in episodic shows because I mean you're not meant to binge them like you said, and I only binge shows like if I'm gonna watch something, I'm gonna sit down and watch multiple episodes of it, and you can't really do that with like a show that has a new story every episode. It just feels weird. And I've had to like power through. Like there's multiple shows that do that where it's like episodic, and then eventually it's like, hey, guess what? Plot. It's like
Yeah.
what? What? Like a good example of that is Kekai Sensen, which is a show that came out actually a few years back, but it feels like it was yesterday when it came out. And that show literally has like episodic comedy episodes, like all the way up till episode 9 out of 12. And it's like, here you go. Here's a story, and it's like, what? What?
Yeah.
Kind of has that same feel, like you said.
Yeah, but like it's something you don't even realize that's happening until it hits you. And that's what I found was really unique about that show because I've really never, like, I've watched episodic shows, but South Park, Simpsons, those types of shows, Family Guy. I've never watched like an anime like that. Like
Yeah.
it was a weird experience, but at the end, when you look back on it, the setting is so cool. It's like I don't really know when it's set. I think it's like a few hundred years in the future. Um, but yeah, it's basically it's what you think it is. It's space cowboys.
Yeah. Did you watch the
Yeah.
movie?
No, I haven't watched the movie yet. I
Okay.
heard it's
I
amazing
heard that
though.
like out of everything Cowboy Bebop related, I heard the movie is like the one thing that makes it like above and beyond.
I didn't. I'm
Um,
gonna watch the movie, but I didn't want to watch it before I talked about it because I didn't want it to
okay.
influence like my analysis of it.
Okay.
But
Whenever I
yeah,
Oh,
no, go
what were you
ahead.
gonna say? Okay. Whenever I think of like, whenever people were like, "Oh yeah, Cowboy Bebop's so good," and then I hear people also talk about like other shows from that time, it's less common, but I feel like I've talked about it before probably. But people sometimes will tie in Trigun into the same like boat in terms of just its its setting, and then also when it aired, it basically aired the same time as Cowboy Bebop, and it just got less popular than Bebop because Bebop was so popular. But I watched Trigun a few months back. I actually don't know. Have I talked about it on the podcast yet?
Yeah,
I'm
you've
I'm
talked
trying to
about it a
think.
bit.
Okay. That has basically like the same format. It's for the most part episodic, and it's basically just like sprinkling in like stuff about the main character because you know literally nothing about them in like the first 3 episodes. And then once the characters are introduced, and then once the setting is introduced, and the laws of the land and stuff like that is like settled, then it's like, okay, well, now here's some actual like developing plot now that you have all the characters round up, and now that you know that everyone is kind of friends now. It basically does that exact same thing. um and I was able to sit down and just watch that shit nonstop, and even though it was episodic, it was, one, it was hilarious, and two, it was so like weird and interesting because it's kind of the same thing. Instead of it being like space cowboys, whatever, it's like it takes place on an alien planet, but it's like it's a bunch of people living there in like what looks like a desert. Um, so in that sense, it kind of is like a cowboy setting still, but it does the same thing where like right at the end you're given like 5 or 6 episodes of plot, and it's like, holy shit, this is great, and I didn't realize it was going to be this great.
Yeah.
So
Like,
I need to watch Bebop because it, like you just said, it's the same format.
mhm. Like as I was talking to my friend about this, and it's one of his favorite shows, and I was like, I was watching it, and like, you get these weird episodes. Like this isn't like a spoiler, but there's one episode where they all do shrooms, and I'm like, what? I'm
Sweet.
struggling to understand why I should care, but this is still kind of funny at the same time, because like,
Yeah.
where's the like, what's going on? And then like, but they sprinkle in little things that are kind of endearing. Like there's one episode where they need to find a VHS player and they don't know what it is, and I'm like, hey. And like there's another episode where there's this criminal trying to kill everyone and like transpose their minds onto the internet. And so
Interesting.
he's basically trying to migrate everyone from carbon-based bodies into the web. And you're like, oh, this is a really cool concept, even though this has absolutely nothing to do with the main story. But
Yeah.
like, it's cool. And then you dig a little deeper, and this kind of played into what I love about music is classic rock. Is each episode is named after a famous song,
Okay.
and a lot of the songs within the actual soundtrack are famous songs. And it has, and if you look, and once you complete the show, the soundtrack is like, wow. Like some of, like, there are scenes where, especially at the end, where the music like makes it. Uh,
Yeah, I've already heard songs from Cowboy Bebop, and it is a pretty unique soundtrack. Um, Probably once in a million. Like I don't think I've heard a show use that type of themed, like jazzy OST
yeah,
and make it sound that
it
good.
was very much in its own sort of genre, with incorporating multiple sort of, you have sci-fi, you have classic rock, you have cowboy, you have technology, you have, it was really interesting. And I've
Hmm.
never really, I like, at the end I was like, wow, but how, I don't even know what to rate this. And I was like, yeah, it deserves a 9 is what I gave it. But I'm like,
Okay.
it's just different though. It's a different sort of experience. And like at the end you're like, but I don't want it to end. But like 5 episodes before you're like, when is this gonna end?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I get what you mean. It just kind of slaps you in the face with, "Hey, you should care about this now."
Yeah, yeah. And then, there's the movie, which I will watch, but yeah, I thought it was just a really interesting take on a show, and just
Yeah,
the
I
structure
would
of it.
recommend, if you haven't seen it yet, to definitely give Trigun a try because I've heard it is very similar
Yeah,
to
that's
Cowboy Bebop.
definitely on my list. I'll get to it eventually.
And I personally love Trigun. I think it's a great series.
Hmm.
It kind of ends off really weird and almost rushed-ish, so it's not perfect, but it still keeps you entertained enough. And the main character is like one of my favorite
Yeah,
characters of all time.
big
Um,
blonde spiky hair dude.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's like 6'5" or something like that. Dude is huge.
All right. Well, what else were you watching with your sister or whatever?
Um, oh yeah, I guess I had to pick up from there. It's just so I feel like it's been so long since like we last talked about this. I don't know where everything sits. I think after My Hero, we went straight into. Oh yeah, that's right. We went to Demon Slayer. Yep.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
We, her and I watched the first 26 episodes of the Demon Slayer anime, which is all that's out right now. But then like 2 days after we finished the season, or maybe it was either same day or the day after, we went and saw the movie in theaters.
Yep.
Um, and wow,
I've been waiting to
that's
hear
all I
about
gotta
this.
say, man.
Yeah.
You haven't seen it yet?
No, no.
Oh man,
It is.
dude, the
It's
Demon
canon,
Slayer movie
right?
is
I've heard it's
so
canon.
good. Yes, it is the next arc in the series.
Yeah.
It takes place right after the first, because remember the first season ends with them getting on the train.
Yeah.
And the movie's called the Mugen Train movie.
Hmm.
Um, and just wow. I mean, wow. It is really, really good. Like, I mean, yeah, I was behind all the hype when Demon Slayer came out. Like, I watched it after everyone was like, "Oh my God, this is crazy! Oh my God, I love it." And I was like, "Well, I guess I should expect it to be good." And then I watched it, and it was arguably really good. Like, regardless of people saying that it's just overhyped, overrated, whatever, I don't care. Demon Slayer, at least for the first season, for it being a very prologue esque show, because like the first season really doesn't do much, but like just introduce characters and have them have like one like fight scene towards the end. I mean, obviously there's more than
Yeah.
that, but it's very prologue. It's still really good for that first season,
Well,
and then this second arc turned into a movie is also really good. There's not a quality drop.
yeah. For me,
Um,
I mean, I'm not gonna talk about the second season. But the first season of The Promised Neverland is kind of similar in essence to the first season of Demon Slayer. It's just a really solid setup for the rest of the show.
yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. And other than that, like I have some gripes with the movie. I won't talk too much about the plot because it's pretty straightforward what happens in the movie. I mean, it takes place on a train, and like in the whole arc takes place on that train. Like it's really short, even though it is like a 2-hour movie. But still, it's like
I mean,
that's why
that was
that's
probably a good
why.
idea for it to make him a movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's probably why they turned it into a movie, because the entire movie does take place on that train. So maybe that's why. Maybe that arc was just really short in like the manga or something. They're like, maybe we shouldn't make the whole season out of this or something. Who knows? But like the only gripes I have are that like it really did rush straight into the action. Like there really wasn't a lot of build up, even though like the end of the first season was like, oh, we have a next mission on this train. Let's get on this train. Still, the fact that the movie literally is just them on the train fighting things, like there really isn't like build up at all.
Well,
That's probably like my only gripe
well, I know you
for
already
the
know
movie.
this, but like the last few episodes of the first season like is kind of build up.
Well, that's what I
Yeah.
mean. Like, other than the fact that that is just them, like, well, I mean, it was build up for the movie, but it was also just kind of build up for them, like, training to
Yeah, it
go
was
on their
build
next
up
mission.
for kind of
It's just like
the
a
main plot.
vague,
Yeah.
yeah. So, like I said, my only gripe with the movie, literally my only gripe, is the fact that there was just not really build up for the actual like anything that happened. It just kind of jumped straight into the action, but in a movie format that feels fitting. Um, and I did have some weird like inconveniences happen in the movie theater, which was kind of annoying, but they still, in hindsight, did not hinder my experience of the movie
People
at all.
shouting or
Like
shit
the
like that.
no, 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 no. The weird like film thing that we have in our movie theater that like dims the screen and then it rises up. It's like a sheet.
Oh,
It
wow,
didn't rise
that's
up all the way.
old-fashioned. God damn. What the hell?
Well, no, the movie theater actually got re-renovated a few years back, and it's actually like the nicest movie theater I've been to like ever. I love our movie
I was
theater.
gonna say that
But
sounds like a film projector, not a digital projector.
no, I don't know why it it is the way it is. Like, I don't know why it has that, but it didn't go up all the way. So there was like a 16th of the screen that was still like dim, not black, but it was like dim. So
Oh,
like sometimes the top of people's heads would get like a
so
little chopped
like
off, but it was
the actual like screen or the white background for the projection didn't cover the whole aspect ratio. Is that what you're saying?
I don't know because it was an actual like cloth hanging down or something like that. It was like an actual like thing hanging down, and you could see it blocking a part of the screen. I don't know what it
Huh.
was, but regardless, there was like a small portion of the screen. It wasn't that much. That was like dimmed a little bit. It was weird. So like sometimes Tanjiro would like sit up or something, and like the top of his head would just chop off when it shouldn't have. And that was like one of the only things that really was like I said, a minor
Yeah.
inconvenience. Like the audio was a little weird too. Like once it was really loud. Maybe that was just because I haven't been to a movie theater in like a year and a half since COVID. I just haven't gone to the movie theater.
Yeah.
But
I feel you.
like I think the last movie I saw in theaters was the most recent Star Wars movie. So that was like end of 2019 or something like that. Um, but it felt like it was really loud. And then once characters talked a little too loud, sometimes they got like kind of muffled. Um, but like I said, I do not think any of those things at all hindered my experience because I still fucking loved that movie. um, it really is good. Like it is really good.
There is something
And
else about watching something in the theaters, you know. It's just got a different vibe to it.
yeah, I guess that's true. Like you just it's also partly about the experience.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, for the most part, I mean, I'll probably rewatch it whenever it drops on like digital release, like at my desk, and just see if maybe it was just movie theater hype, which I doubt it will be.
Do you know if it's gonna get
But
a
also,
dub?
I'd assume. Oh, it does have a dub because my movie theater was showing it in both dubbed and
Oh,
Japanese on opposite days. So like one
perfect.
day they would show it in English, and then one day they would show it in Japanese. And we just happened to be lucky to choose the day that it was in Japanese because her and I have watched it in sub. And she wanted to see it in the dub because she didn't care as much as I did about which voices. But I was like, I don't want to watch a movie in the opposite language that I watched
Yeah,
the
you want to
series
stay
because for me
consistent.
that would just ruin it.
Yeah.
I'm picky about that stuff, and so we got lucky to pick the day because we called them because on the website it said like subbed and dubbed, and I was like, well, which one is it? Do you get to pick? And so we called, and it was like, yeah, today's our Japanese day for it. Tomorrow we'll be showing it on in English. And I was like, oh, that's perfect. So we literally went like almost same day.
There you go. That's the best.
Because it was showing in our theater, and I was like, oh, dude, we have to. I thought that it was not releasing anymore in our theater because I saw like an ad for it like a week and a half prior to that, and I was like, man, it's gonna be gone by the time we finish the show, and it actually wasn't, thankfully. But
Hmm.
yeah, that was my experience.
Yeah, I gotta watch that soon, considering now I know it's dubbed.
Whenever you get the chance, it is
Yeah.
it is really good. Also, the music, that's another thing to point out. Like the Demon Slayer music for the most part is pretty good, but it's not
Yeah, it does,
like it is above average. Like it is good, but it's
it's
not
not like
like
the
in
centerpiece
my
of the show though.
in my opinion, it's not like Sawano good or like Yuki Hayashi good, which Sawano is like Attack on Titan. Um, it's not like that good, but it's like the movie music though. It is that good. The
Hmm.
music for the movie, they went above and beyond. It is crazy how good that music is. Um, so that's another thing. I'm a big fan of something having a good OST. So when it does, I'm like, hell yeah! I get to listen to that again whenever it releases or something.
Yeah,
Like I
that's
just get
like
to listen to that over and
I
over.
talked to my friend, like he reads manga, and I'm like, the one thing that I can't get over about manga is that it doesn't have a soundtrack. Like, it's so important to me when I'm watching or experiencing like a story to have a soundtrack. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually something I'll get into here in a minute, but I'll let you talk here in a second. But yeah, the just that's all you need to know is one, the movie's just damn good, and two, the music is like specifically is very good. I really enjoyed the music in that movie. Um, so whenever you get the chance,
Yeah,
you need to see it.
that'll be soon. I bet
And
it's
plus,
already
you
on
just
mine.
need to anyway because
Yeah,
season
because it's
two
canon.
technically. Yeah, season two is technically coming out this year, so you kind of have to watch it.
Yeah.
So anything else that you've
All right.
been
Yeah, I have
you've been on? You said you got some stuff
yeah,
to
I got a
talk
few
about,
more.
so all right,
Okay.
I got some other stuff I can talk about too.
Yeah, I'm
So
just gonna
we got
go
time, whatever.
in like sequential order of how I watched it. So the next one,
Okay.
probably, I mean, depending on your perspective, the biggest one, Attack on Titan, the final season,
Okay.
part one, I guess. But
Yeah, because part two is like beginning of next year, right?
yeah, something like that. I was expecting this to be it, but then they just okay. Apparently, it's not.
I mean, to be fair, isn't it only like 16
It is.
episodes?
It's a weird episode
It'd be a
count.
little anticlimactic if it was,
Yeah.
only 16 episodes for a big intense final
Yeah,
season. That would be a
agreed.
little,
Like I just like
yeah.
I didn't know how they were gonna structure it, so I mean it could have
Yeah,
been.
because I remember when the not leaks, but when like they first announced that there was going to be a final season, and then like I think the episode count was leaked or something like that. Someone found like something that showed the episode count, and it said 16, and people were like, the whole rest of the manga and 16 episodes? Are you sure? Like it felt like it
Yeah.
was going to be
It just
ruined. So
for to me, I was like, that's just a weird episode count. Like you don't see
yeah, it
16.
is. It is a little weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but
I guess that
yeah,
hopefully that means it'll have 32 fully.
yeah, that would be awesome. But anyway, yeah.
Um,
Like what they say about it and like when it was airing, you hear like all this shit on Twitter with like the hype. Like I muted every like anime guy that I follow cuz I don't want to know. But
no spoilers,
all I was
nothing.
hearing was like, "Oh my god, oh my god." Like every fucking episode, "Oh my god."
Yeah.
And just let me tell you this, like there is a sequence. Like the first 8 episodes is its own kind of thing. So they build up very slowly in the first 4 episodes, and then it hits. And let me tell you, like that sequence of the first four and then the next four, probably some of the best TV I've ever watched. Like that was one of the most well done sequences I've ever watched. Like I'm not even kidding. That was ridiculously well thought out. And when they got to the climax, like it was literally like the Twitter said. It was like holy fucking shit. Like it's
Wow.
actually all popping off right now.
Yeah, I still haven't seen it yet, despite the sub for it being out for a while. I just for some reason, I just when it finally when the first part finally finished, I was like, I don't know why, I just really don't feel like watching this yet. So I just put it off. I don't know. I have no idea why. I've just been putting it off.
Yeah, I
So
was like,
hearing this from you is reassuring that it'll be. I mean, I knew it was probably going to be good. Like other than the fact that it is a new studio doing it.
mm-hmm.
And also, everyone looks drastically different from what I've seen.
They don't look as
I,
different as you like. It's not a different as in, wow, they fucked this up. They're just older. Yeah.
yeah, that's what I've heard.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm glad to know that it's
Yeah,
there's
the
not gonna
animation
be a drop
style
in the quality.
is kind of still it's the same. Like
I've
the
heard there's a lot
vertical
more CG in
lines,
it though.
they still have all that. But yeah, the first episode you're like, "Oh, okay, they're doing this, interesting." And then the second episode they're like and you're like, "Oh, okay, we're still doing this." Okay. And then the third episode, "Oh, yeah, no, we're still doing this." And but right at the end, you're like, "Oh, hold on. Okay, there's something there."
There's a hint.
Yeah.
There's a
In the
glimpse.
next episode, you're like, oh, this is something. This is building up. And then the fifth episode, you're like, oh shit, it's about to go crazy. And then it goes crazy. Yeah.
I mean, I was hoping it would because the way that it builds up from the third season, it is very much so like this should be the final thing that happens. Everything's been building
Yeah.
up to this, and the way Attack on Titan is structured and the way that it's paced in terms of at least the anime. I don't know about the manga. It is very much so just constant, not constant build up because there obviously is like a lot of huge things that have happened in the first 3 seasons, but it does feel like it's still constantly building up while everything else is still happening. So for it to finally unravel, I'm assuming this is going to be the big unravel from everything building up, like you said it is.
Yeah, so
That sounds crazy, and it should be.
it's a really they took a really interesting approach to it, and I really like the what they did. So like as I was saying, the first 8 episodes is kind of everything that happens in a certain point of time, and then the next 8 episodes is kind of the backstory to why and how that all happened.
Like a reverse type of thing.
Exactly. And
They show it and then they show what happens between whatever.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. They basically they leave out all of the kind of droning details until all the hype is already over.
That's actually a pretty funny way to go about it.
Yeah.
I like that.
And then now I don't want to spend too much time on this because I would have to go into details and spoilers and you haven't seen it, but I will say just this one thing. I am slightly concerned about where it's going, and I'm just praying like the way that I think it's going, it would be very, in my opinion, anticlimactic if they decided to go that certain route. So if they do, I
Okay.
hope maybe they do it in a way that I'm not expecting, and but I'm just slightly concerned about the path they're taking.
All
But I'll
right.
just say that. Yeah. But it's really
Interesting.
good. Amazing, amazing 16 episodes. I give it a 9. So, yeah.
All right. Uh, yeah, I'll have to. I got a lot of stuff that I just keep putting off for some reason, like Cowboy Bebop. I need to get back on One Piece at some point. Attack on Titan season, like all this stuff that I've been waiting for, and then I just kind of don't watch it. Which apparently that I'm not the only one. Like I've seen a bunch of people like joke about that before, like saying like they'll make a watch list and then they just will specifically not watch it for some reason. I
Yeah.
don't know why that's a thing.
This is exactly why I don't make a watch list. I just do it
It's like a
based
curse.
on how I'm feeling. I'm just like, yeah, I just scroll through a list or I'm browsing Twitter and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to watch that. And I just watch it.
Yeah, like I didn't obviously make my watch list in like an ordered like this is what I'll watch next, and then after that I'll watch this, and then after that I'll watch this, and then, it's not like a 1 through 10 like to do list. It's more so like making note of shows that I should watch first before I just run out of things I don't know what to
Yeah, that
watch.
a
Um,
like a list based on wow, I don't have anything to watch right now. Let's go to the list. Yeah.
yeah, and it's not like I have to watch the first one. It's I just kind of look at it and I'm like, maybe I'll watch one of these.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
like I think I have like 20 of them in there right now. And then whenever I finish one, obviously I'll take it out and whatever. But yeah, you
Yeah.
want to pass the torch back
Yeah,
over to
yeah,
me,
what you
or you
got?
want to say anything else?
I mean, there's not
Okay,
really much more I can say. It's just super hype, and you gotta watch it.
okay,
Yeah.
all right. Obviously for me it's weird talking about all these shows I've already seen, but I don't think I've talked about any of them on the podcast before. Like My Hero, I think that was the first time we brought it up.
In
Um,
detail. Yeah,
okay,
definitely.
yeah. Have we talked about Mob Psycho 100 yet?
No, that's actually one I really want to start watching.
Okay, that was what we watched after Demon Slayer. And that's coming up to basically the present. That is the last show that we just finished the other day.
Okay.
Um, and Mob is good. Mob is great. It's really straightforward. It's made by the same person who created One Punch Man, which I'm pretty sure you've seen at least season one of
Yeah,
it, haven't you?
I've seen both seasons actually.
Oh,
Yeah.
the polls. Yeah, yeah. I think we talked about that.
Hmm.
Um, and it has the same comedy, but here's the way I looked at it. This was pre season 2 of One Punch when I first watched Mob 1 and 2. Um, it has like the same hilarious slapstick comedy with like just really wacky shit happening, but it takes a lot more of a serious route and dives into plot sooner than One Punch did.
Okay.
Um, like season 1 even has a lot of like really emotional plot points in it, but it still has the same hilarious charm as One Punch. Like I definitely prefer it over One Punch, and I would compare them because they kind of, like I said, same creator, same feel, just different, definitely different in terms of visuals for the most part. And then also instead of it being like kind of like your stereotypical like superheroes, it's a world with like supernatural like psychic powers and ghosts and stuff. But it is still like really funny. Um, but actually, here's a really funny part about it is they'll like there's some One Punch references like scattered into Mob, which is really funny. Like sometimes someone's phone lock screen will be like Saitama or like you'll see like a One Punch Man logo or something like on the wall of something like every now and then.
So is
It's
it
pretty
set
funny that
in
they'll.
like, modern day Japan, or is it?
Yeah, yeah. It's the main character's a middle school student, in Japan.
Okay.
Um, I mean, it's not really like hard to set the premise. It's literally just middle schooler who has psychic powers, and instead of it being like My Hero, where kind of everyone's born with it, it's more so like he's one of the few. At least on the surface. There's obviously people that show up eventually, and then there's more people with psychic powers that show up, and then people sometimes will fight and whatever. But off the bat, it seems like he's one of few,
Okay.
and he works with this. He works like quote unquote part time, uh, with a guy who claims to be a psychic, but he's not. He's just conning people who show up with problems, and he tries to help them by convincing them that he can remove like a spirit or something. But he actually just has Mob, the main character, do it. And then whenever Mob is like, "Hey, why didn't you do that?" Because Mob thinks, well, you're shown to believe. You're supposed to believe that Mob thinks that he has powers. Like the guy's name is Reagan, and
Okay.
he's like, well, I'm just so strong that I couldn't sense the spirit. That's all. When in reality, he literally has like no psychic power or anything, and like half the time, he can't even see the ghosts or anything like that. Like it's really funny, but it's also just really heartwarming. It's a really emotional show. I mean, the whole show revolves around the main character's emotions because he's a very straight-faced, emotionless character, like the main character is. But uh, the way that the show structures itself is his emotions are like constantly bottled up because of like there's flashbacks that explain it, but even without explaining it, like there's a percentage that shows up on screen sometimes, and it goes up to 100 or whatever, and
Well.
like every time he gets like a little more stressed, you'll see like that percentage go up, and once it gets to 100, whatever emotion he was feeling at the time will just get released. So like sometimes he gets really angry and he just starts whooping ass, or sometimes he gets really sad and you'll just like he'll go from like emotionless face to like crying, and it's like it's really it's a really neat concept. Mob
Sounds like a robot.
is kind of is like he kind of acts like an emotionless like robot, and then his emotions just overflow whenever he gets like too stressed or something. And you feel for the characters that show up, and some characters just by really funny circumstance become mainstays in the cast, and it's a really equally heartwarming but also like really action-packed series. And it's literally only 24 episodes, I'm pretty sure. Or no, it's like 26, because the second season I thought it was 12 episodes,
Okay.
and we were going to finish it the other night, and then I was like, oh yeah, last one, here we go. And then there was like two more after that, and we had to watch it like the next day, and I was like, ah, shit, my bad.
Shit.
So I think the second season's like 14 episodes, but the first season's only 12.
Okay.
So it's actually a really short series, and it's done too. I'm pretty sure it's done.
Oh, wow.
Because of the way it ended, it was like it just felt like it was just done. And there hasn't been any announcements or anything like that. And
I mean, it's fine.
I'm assuming it's over. But
26 episodes. That's fine.
yeah, no, it's a normal length for like a quote unquote single season of something. But um, it's crazy how much happens in that little amount of time, and it still doesn't feel rushed or anything. It's a very good series. I'm a big fan of Mob Psycho 100, and that's another one that I'll recommend to just about anyone, as long as you can handle it being
Yeah.
like, it's got a very weird art style. Like it is very unique, in its art style, like very sketchy, very like hand drawn, like not that, I don't want to say not that detailed, but it's like looks very cartoony, like almost even more so than One Piece.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, that's been on
but it,
my, like, I've seen that title on Mal so many times, and I'm like, not
mhm.
today. But
Yeah,
eventually.
that's another one I'd recommend to just about everyone. It's just really good, and it's short. So if anyone's scared of like a long running show, that like if you My Hero Academia, because it has like 70, actually it just reached its 100th episode, or at least it's about to. Um, Mob's a good one to start with because it's just, I mean, it's funny enough to where even when there's not people fighting, it's hilarious. And then once people start fighting, uh, it just visually looks insane. Like the action scenes are.
I
This is something that they can get away with because it doesn't look that detailed. So whenever shit hits the fan and there's like constant action, they can take that like minuscule detail and just make the animation go crazy because I don't have to worry about specifically detailing all these panels and screens and stuff. So you don't lose visual quality for flowy animation with the fight scenes.
Yeah, one of my biggest questions is like, why is it? What's the deal with the title? And you literally just explained it. I was like, oh, okay.
I basically, yeah, it's basically like you. The title literally ties into the main character,
Yeah,
Mob, and then the 100. I'm assuming is in terms of him
yeah,
reaching
the
like
emotion
100%,
levels.
and then just an emotion, you know. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that. And that was the most recent show that we've watched. We're gonna start another one here in a couple days. I have been watching. Well, I tried to watch a couple shows on my own, like in the past couple months, but I would start something, get like an episode and a half in, I'm like, yeah, not feeling this, and I stopped. And that happened with a few shows. I don't know where exactly the timeline leaves off to where we recorded the last one and what I was watching then compared to now, because it's been so long. So I can't say for sure what I have watched in that entire time, but
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
for the most part, that's about it.
That's interesting because there aren't really a lot of shows, animes like that, like those comedy, like slapstick, like deadpan shows, you know. So
Yeah.
that's it's good to know that there's another one because I thought One Punch Man was the only one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does. It has the exact same One Punch formula of just like the main character being put in situations where people think that he should lose and then he just doesn't because
Because
he's got
who
these
doesn't give a
insane psychic
fuck?
powers you didn't know about. And he just like starts whooping ass and shit. But yeah, it's still like surprisingly enough, despite him being like this overpowered psychic power wielding character, it's a really relatable character as well. Um, so I think that's why Mob is so well received.
Yeah, I mean that sounds like the same deal with Saitama. Like he's so powerful, but he can't come to grips with it. Like he wished he
Yeah,
wasn't as powerful as he was.
he became too strong.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just too boring. But yeah. Okay. All right. Next one. I think you've seen this one, so I think we can talk about it in detail. Second season of Doctor Stone, Stone Wars.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, you watched the last episode just a few days ago,
Yeah,
right?
just a few days ago it came out. I
Okay.
watched, like, I think a few weeks ago, I watched the first nine because I just couldn't wait any longer. And like, I didn't want to watch anything else. So I was like, I gotta watch Doctor
Mm-hmm.
Stone. And then I had to wait
Yeah.
like 3 weeks for the next two to come out. So that was a
Mm-hmm.
bit annoying. But
So
yeah,
what'd you think overall for the second season?
pretty solid. I mean, I think the character
It
building and the kind of shock and plot twists of the first season, I don't think it quite measures up, but it's still really
mm,
solid. I think,
it was cut in half in length, right? It's like
yeah,
only
it's only
12,
11
11.
episodes compared to
Yeah, and season
24.
1 was like 24.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
I think at first it was about what I expected. Like, okay, yeah, they getting in contact with Taiju and Yuzuriha, getting the cell phone over there, and having all these different inventions to help them do that. You building the car, like that was really cool. And then, but then you get to the end, those the last few episodes, and you're like, okay, how is this gonna go down? Like who's gonna win? Is there gonna be a winner? And then you get to the point where, uh, fuck, what the hell is his name? Uh,
Tsukasa?
no, Senku. Fucking hell.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Senku gets to the cave and he makes the nitroglycerin, and you're like, oh, what's gonna happen now? You're like, he finally has the upper hand.
Oh yeah, that's the part with the paper airplanes,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Okay.
And then there's the reveal about the sister, which was hinted at, I will say, but only once. So I would say,
Wait,
but so
what?
when I watched that episode, I was like, hold on, did they just pull that out of their ass? No, but it was hinted at in the first season.
Was it? Okay,
It
I didn't
was.
remember.
So they didn't just pull that out of their ass, which I appreciated. Much appreciated there. And then they get they get to the sister. Um, uh, fuck. Why do I keep forgetting names? As Sukasa's sister. And then they unfreeze her, and then the whole thing with I can't forget the fucking guy's name, the gray haired guy with
The
the
yeah, I don't remember his name either, to be honest.
Yeah, and
The spear guy.
yeah, spear guy, and they're like, and then he betrays Tsukasa, and you're like, whoa, okay, what's gonna happen now? Like,
Yeah.
how's the dynamic gonna shift? And then I thought the whole thing with the taser was a cool concept, but I'm like, dude, you had time to jump out of the way. Like, come on. Like he was like slowly inching his what you all you had to do was let go of the spear and you were good. But yeah, other than that, it's just about what I expected with a little bit of twist at the end to kind of make it so Tsukasa and Senku kind of made up. And then my favorite part wasn't really even the season itself. Like I loved all the inventions and stuff, but I loved that about the first season. But what I love the most is the setup for the next season with them traveling across the world. The boat. I'm like, yes, okay, like you got me now. That's gonna be awesome. And so they said they're gonna go to the other side of the world, which is where the so-called stone beam originated from, which is really interesting because that's South America. The other side of the world from Japan. I'm like, whoa, okay, where are they gonna go? And if you look, I literally after I watched that episode, I looked I googled what's the exact opposite point to Japan, in the world, and it's in the middle of the ocean, but it's right off the coast of South America, so it's probably in South America. So I'm like,
okay,
yeah, like the season was about what I expected. With obviously the twists, with the power dynamics at the end, but yeah, it was just solid. It didn't really have those shocks with the whole space and Senku's dad twists at the end of the first season. So I wouldn't say it's definitely not a 10 like I gave the first season. I just gave it just a solid 8. Like, yeah, it didn't really do anything wrong, but it didn't wow me either. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why, but I felt like the second season was a little underwhelming compared to the first one. Maybe it was the length. Maybe, I don't know. Like, when I first started watching it, when I jumped back on it, I don't know, maybe a month and a half ago, something like that, I remember watching, the first few episodes, and I was like, man, I'm so glad I'm watching Dr. Stone again, because it's just them doing crazy shit and inventing stuff, and it's just like, oh, cool. Then they're gonna start building up to the plot again. But I enjoy the science stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
And then once the actual it's kind of like the opposite of last season. Like the first season, I really enjoyed all the stuff with the conflict between Tsukasa and all that, and then them just inventing very basic stuff to survive. I liked that a lot more than the second half with the tournament and all that. Even though I did like the music stuff at the end as well with the
vinyl,
the grapes and all that. I did love that, but with this season, I actually preferred more of the inventy stuff and that instead of the actual conflict. I felt once it got to the actual them storming the base or whatever, I was to me it just felt a little boring at that point. I don't know why. I still enjoyed the actual climax with Tsukasa and Senku, teaming up finally. But everything that led up to it, to me, just, I don't know, felt really bland.
Yeah, I think...
Which sucks, because I was so excited to watch Dr. Stone again, and then, for it to just kind of be... I mean, I know it was only 11 episodes, but for it to just be, just good, nothing crazy like the first season. The first season blew my expectations out of the water.
Yeah.
So... This season was definitely underwhelming for me, for the most part.
I think the one thing that kind of hindered this season was that a lot of the big reveals and all the setup for this season happened in the previous season, and all the big climactic reveals happened in the first season. And you still have this overarching plot point of why the fuck everyone is stone, and you're like, okay, I really want to see this battle and all the inventions that he's going to do, but why is everyone stoned? Can we get to that?
Yeah, before I was yeah, they can get to that later. I want them all to fight. Yeah. And then once they actually fought, I'm that wasn't really as much as I was hoping for.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was more of just an exchange of guerrilla warfare more than a fight. I found, and then the fight ended, and then you had your betrayals, and then we're getting on to like the main plot point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
I am hopeful though.
I'm
Still
glad they
hopeful.
finally got to the point where they're actually reviving people though. I was like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
waiting for that. I thought that would be a little more. I thought that would make a bigger deal out of that, but they kind of just like, oh yeah, here's a manga artist. We're gonna wake this guy up. Like, okay.
I don't know why, but we're gonna wake him up.
Yeah, write manga for us. Fucking hell. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was surprised they didn't really make a big deal out of that. As like, yeah, they kind of just like rushed. They kind of just brushed past it. Oh yeah, we're gonna wake all these people up. They're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, okay, we're going across the world. Like, okay, all right.
Well, to be fair, I mean, they already did a lot of big moments where they were reviving people in the first season. So like, you expect people to just like, they obviously know how to do it at this point, so they could just keep doing it.
Yeah, but I was
But
like, I was expecting that one scene where they revive someone and everyone is like standing around them and they're just explaining what happened and they're like, what the fuck are these guys talking about?
yeah.
But yeah, that's okay. Like the setup for the next season kind of made it up for me.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. And
Yeah.
then like the stuff with Tsukasa at the end, where
Yeah, they
the big stuff happened.
freeze. I'll suspend my disbelief for that because it is fantasy, kind of. But yeah, like, but I just say that because cryogenically freezing people is not something we've invented yet. So, but I'll suspend my disbelief for a little bit, and I'll see what they do with that. But yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Not much more to say on that though.
Okay.
I can keep going if you guys.
keep going with
Yeah.
if you wanna get a couple more off of off of your list, then yeah. There's really only one more thing that I'd talk
Oh,
about.
well, go ahead because I have one more main one, and then I just kind of have like a teaser for the next podcast. So.
Okay. Well, this is probably the biggest one for me, and I've already talked to you about it. When we talked, like, what was it, like a week and a half ago? Last time we talked, whatever. I actually started reading manga like consistently.
Oh yeah, you did say that.
Yeah. So before, the only like experience I've had with manga, like literally the only experience other than like maybe reading panels off of like Twitter or something, like actually sitting down and deciding I want to read it by myself, was with the Blue Exorcist manga, because I was told that the manga is better and that the manga like it actually has like a different way it goes about the ending than the anime, and apparently like the anime changes shit from the manga, and that's why people are like, oh, the anime is it's worse. And so I was like, whatever, I'll read the manga then. And I started reading it, and like, other than the fact that I was literally just rereading, because all the way up to where I got, I didn't get that far, but all the way up to where I got, it literally was like page for page pretty much the same thing as the show.
Okay.
Like, it seemed like they were doing like a chapter an episode almost. And all the way up until stuff started apparently diverging, which I didn't even notice yet at this point. It just felt like normal Blue Exorcist, which I'm a fan of. I do like Blue Exorcist despite it being kind of generic. But the art in it is really good. I'll say that much. The art in Blue Exorcist manga is actually really good. But I couldn't consistently stick with it because I was like, this is just me rewatching it, but in page format,
Yeah.
and I just don't want to do that. So I dropped it for a while, and I would occasionally read like a chapter like once every month or whatever. Like, I would occasionally pick it up whenever I'm in the mood. But I was like, yeah, whatever. And then recently, I don't know how I even like decided I wanted to do this. Like, I don't know why it came to mind, but I was like, it's gonna be it'll probably be a while until we get another Haikyuu season. Like, I could just sense it, because for some reason Haikyuu seasons release once every like 2-3 years, and it's just annoying.
Well, didn't you say it's like almost over? Or am I just completely misinformed?
Well, from when I was just watching it, it didn't seem like it was. But
Okay.
now that I am reading the manga for it, there really isn't that much after the current season that just aired.
Okay.
After that, like, because I am reading the manga for it now, there's really only a couple more like quote unquote arcs. It's not really split up into arcs, but there's only like a couple more like arcs that happen right after the most recent season. So yeah, I picked up the Haikyuu manga because I was like, whatever. It's taking too long for the series to come out, and this is actually a manga I'd probably stick with because it's a show that I've loved for so many years. Unlike Blue Exorcist, where it was just like I heard this was better, so I'm giving it a try. But like manga in general as a concept is hard for me to get into because it's still image black and white format of what could be on screen moving.
Yep.
And like you said, without music. But I said, you know what? Haikyuu's a series that I love enough to where I could probably still enjoy it, even if it was just the manga. And before, I would probably be too scared to like quote unquote spoil myself of how it will turn out before the show comes out. Because that's kind of why I'm not reading. Like I won't read ahead. Like now that I'll probably start reading a lot more manga now that I've read this because I do enjoy it now. But before I would probably say like, oh, well, I'm too scared to read ahead on this show because I don't want to spoil it. Like, let's say My Hero, because I know there's probably going to be a season every year, so I don't really feel like I need to read ahead unless I actually get the urge. But like with Haikyuu, it takes a while for it to come out, so I was like, you know what, whatever. So I read ahead, like I started reading. The most recent season ended on like chapter 294 or something like that, and I just picked up from there. And I'm like, I think 7 chapters till the end right now.
Okay.
I'm at like 390 something.
Have you ever thought about, reading manga and getting to like a really climactic point and wishing like, fuck, I wish I would have experienced this first in anime?
I mean, yeah, but maybe it's see, that's the thing. This is like the first actual, full on manga I've dedicated myself to. So I don't know what to like. I don't know how to feel about it right now. I mean, obviously now I could say that yeah, it's still weird for me because I'm reading ahead in the source material and I'm reading it in manga format, which is the first time I'm doing this. Because I wouldn't really count me reading Blue Exorcist as like my actual first time because it was still like stuff I've already seen. This is stuff I haven't seen yet, so I don't know how to feel about it right now. But I can probably say that I don't regret reading ahead at this point. I can say that I'm pretty satisfied because one, the manga is actually like really cool, like in terms of how it does its paneling and like, I mean, the art style is pretty much the exact same as like the most recent season of the anime, and even without the music, and the Haikyuu soundtrack is arguably my favorite OST like ever. It is so good. Even without it, it still feels like you can tell what song should be playing at what point if you've heard it enough. It's just I don't regret it. I will say that yeah, obviously I wish this was animated, but I also don't mind that it's not. Because it's just I think it's because the plot itself, because it is just plot at this point.
Yeah.
You don't have music, you don't have good animation, you don't have
Voice actors.
Your OPs and EDs, you don't have voice actors. It really is just the story at this point.
Yeah.
Obviously there are cool visuals with the manga, like I said, like the Haikyuu manga is drawn really well. Like displaying action and displaying movement in picture panel format. They do a really damn good job of it, and it makes it look like they're moving on the pages. It looks like they are moving sometimes. But obviously, yeah, it's just plot, and I'm fine with it. I like it, and I'm going to finish it here probably in the next day or two. And once I finish it, I will probably be satisfied because I really like where the story has gone. Like from where season 4 ended, I am like, it's just still just as good, even in book format. It is still just as good.
That's really good to hear. And like me, to me, endings are so important, and
yeah, and I'm basically at like the final like part as well. Like where I'm at is considered like the last part, and it's like I guess I can't say that because it'll spoil it for anyone that wants to watch it or whatever, or wants to wait for it. But it's surprising the way that it got to where it is right now, but it is such a well done way of doing this certain thing. That's about as I have to be that vague because I mean I guess we could spoiler tag it, but then again, what if you end up watching it, and I doubt you'll read ahead in the manga. I don't know how you feel about manga yet, but I don't want to spoil
I have nothing
it for you
against
either,
manga.
so.
I just prefer anime.
Well, yeah. And I'm still the same way right now, but Who knows? Maybe that'll change. I'm gonna probably read some more manga after I finish this. Like I have a Shonen Jump account now because it's like $2 a month.
There you go.
So I've just been reading Haikyuu, and then I'm probably gonna read like everything's on there, man. They got Jujutsu Kaisen, My Hero, One Punch, Demon Slayer. I'm pretty sure Attack on Titan's on there, or maybe it's not. I don't know.
Yeah.
But like all your
Every
all your
Shonen
typical
Jump
like
show. Every single
yeah,
one.
they're just all there, and I didn't think about that until now. Like I randomly was like, oh yeah, I'll take a look at a couple pages of My Hero Academia, and I was like, yep, this is about the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously I can't say too much else because I still want you to watch it, and if you
I will.
you know,
I swear.
if I spoil the manga, because now I can say that. Now I can say that I have the power to spoil them. I'm obviously not going to. I'm not going to be that guy. But like, I have the power now. This is the first time I've read ahead for any series ever.
Yeah.
I have that power.
I really don't know if I'm ever gonna get into manga. Like the only one I could ever think of getting into is One Piece because it's just so far ahead. But
Yeah.
I mean I'll think about that later on. But
Most One Piece fans, obviously the anime probably has. I don't know. Actually, I was about to say the anime probably has more traction for One Piece, but I don't think it. I don't know. Like the manga is insanely popular,
they're
and
both
most people that
insanely
have
popular,
seen most people that have seen both, like they've watched and read, like 9 times out of 10 they prefer the manga. That's not telling you that you should switch to it, and I probably won't.
Yep.
I'll probably still watch it, but I've just heard that it's just like I mean, to be fair, One Piece is really slow paced in the anime, so maybe because you can read at your own pace, it's probably it feels a lot faster in the manga. I don't know. Who knows? Like that's the only
I'll
thing
tell
I
you
can
what,
think of.
if in the manga it takes 10 chapters for Luffy to get from the boat to the ice to the platform, I'd be disappointed.
Well, to be fair, chapters really aren't that.
No, chapters
I
aren't
guess
one
it's
to one with episodes. Yeah.
well, and it's also dependent on the series how long a chapter is. Like with Haikyuu, chapters are 18, I think 18 pages apiece. So I don't know how
I
that
don't even know
translates.
how that would have.
Yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
how that. It's just the chapters are not that long for Haikyuu. They're pretty quick. Which it almost feels like. I mean, maybe this is. I mean, this is me being stupid because I'm reading manga for the first time, whatever. But I didn't. It's probably the case with like most shows, but it feels like a chapter, an episode is just the norm. Like in terms of how it gets adapted, which I didn't think about until now because that's kind of how it was with Blue Exorcist. I mean, I remember specifically when episodes started and ended when I was reading it, and it's like 1-to-1. So, and it's kind of the same thing with Haikyuu, I think. Well, wait, no, I can't. Well, I guess I can't say that because I haven't seen the anime version of what I'm reading right now.
I think that generally makes sense because a
Yeah, that
chapter
probably
is
is the case.
structured to be a beginning and an end of a portion of the story, and they don't always line up. You know, sometimes they're not structured that well, and in the anime they sometimes meld the chapters together. But I think that's generally the concept.
Yeah, because I think when going back to the Attack on Titan topic, I think when people were first saying that like, oh, it's only going to be 16 episodes for the final season, they have to do like 3 chapters an episode to pull this off, and I was like, is that a lot? Like I didn't know.
Yeah.
So now I'm thinking about it. I'm like, 3 chapters in one episode? That sounds crazy. Because of how much
It's a good thing they're doing a part
gotten
2 of the final season then.
I get. Oh wait, yeah, and plus it's just for some reason we are entering the age of part 2s, and I don't know how I feel about it. Personally, I'm not a fan of it.
I mean,
I would just prefer it. To
I
be called
would
a new
rather
season,
them do that than try to shorten it or try to condense
well,
it.
yeah, no.
But I wish
in
they
Attack on
would just
Titan's
release
case,
it
makes
all
sense.
as like a 32 episode run. That would be cool.
Yeah, and like with Attack on Titan's case, it makes sense. But like, you know how like let's say SAO or whatever, where it's like, what was it, War of Underworld Part 1, Part 2, and
Yeah,
and then
that
there
was
like,
oh my god.
there's like ReZero that had like Season 2, Part 1, Part 2, and
Yeah.
I don't know why there's Part 1, Part 2s right now, but
With
I don't like it.
Yeah, with SAO it was 3. It was Alicization, War of Underworld. Both parts are all the same story. So
Yeah.
it was like fuck. There's 2
Well, I just
points where you
don't
have to stop.
I just don't get why they're labeling it Part 1, Part 2. Like other shows have continued plot, but it's called Season 3. You know, like.
Yeah, I mean
just don't
SAO
understand.
is just kind of weird. The way they do
Yeah.
shit.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But I plan to I hope that I will consistently stick with like manga stuff because I am enjoying it with Haikyuu, and I hope that I can transfer it over. Like some shows that maybe I thought were I didn't like in its anime format, I've said before, and I'm gonna put myself on a cross here and crucify myself by saying this again, but like I wasn't crazy about the first season of Jujutsu Kaisen, surprisingly enough,
Anime of the
and
year.
everyone, yeah, and everyone else loved it, and so I'm like maybe I should read the manga and try it out, which I think I might do. I think I might try the manga, despite the anime being so high regarded right now.
Hmm.
Maybe I'll prefer it, and maybe who knows, maybe I'll read ahead on like My Hero Academia at some point because right now I feel like I'm getting like this manga adrenaline
Got that
high, like a
itch.
honeymoon. Like I think I'm getting like a honeymoon phase again. Like I was with anime back in like 2014. So this is exciting for me. I'm really hyped.
Sick. That's awesome to hear.
Yeah. So that's literally everything that I can remember for the past like month, other than maybe something that was like 2 months ago. But it's such a vague period of time that I
Yeah,
don't
I mean,
remember
if you
what goes
missed something,
where.
don't worry about it. I probably
Well,
missed a couple things
well,
too.
yeah, no, and it's not even that. I just don't want to say the same stuff I said in like the last episode, and
Yeah,
not realize it.
I
'Cause
don't
you
think
haven't
you've
uploaded that
repeated
one yet,
anything.
so yeah, it's whatever.
Yeah.
So other than that, the torch is yours.
Okay, this last show that I've watched over the past few months. A little more of an obscure one, Made in Abyss. And
Oh yeah, you did tell me you were watching that.
yeah,
That's
and
right.
before I watched it, the only like point of reference I had for it were the guys on Trash Taste talking about the soundtrack from their boy Kevin
Hmm.
Pankin.
Kevin Pankin, he got some good music.
And
Kevin Pankin makes some
it's a
good music.
really good soundtrack. Like it is really good.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it
One thing
definitely
I've
lives
noticed,
up
like,
to the
one thing I've noticed
reputation.
about Kevin Pankin's music is it's not like Yuki Hayashi or Sawano for Attack on Titan, where it's like it's just constantly big hype instrumentals that it's like
No,
constant action
no,
sounding. Most of like Kevin Pankin also did Rise of the Shield Hero. I don't know if you watched that,
no.
but
You told me about it
um,
though.
other than the soundtrack, the show's really not that great in my opinion. But the soundtrack, like, it's very atmospheric.
Yes,
Like
yeah, that's a great way
it's
to put it.
yeah, and it feels like there's always a just a really it feels like it meshes into the show very well with
It
every
fits
track.
the
Like it,
vibe of the scene.
yep, that's exactly how I would say it.
Yeah. It's almost like a brooding sort of music. It's almost like a soundtrack where you just want to sit down and think. And then
Yeah.
you have the camera just pan slowly. But that's exactly how it is. But anyway,
Hmm.
the show itself, it's a really simple concept. There's this island with a city, and in the middle of the city there's a giant hole, and they called it the Abyss.
Okay.
But that's the simple concept, but within it it gets really complex because
Okay.
within the Abyss there are layers to it. There's I don't really know exactly how many layers, but there's at least 6, and each layer contains different biomes and environments and creatures, and the farther down you go, the more dangerous it is. So
Uh-huh.
the main characters are these kids in an orphanage. They're like they're really young. Like when I like normally you don't have protagonists like this. At least from I mean other than like Erased. I can remember that one because I was kids.
Or
Although
like
it kind of
Promised
wasn't at the
Neverland.
same time. Um yeah, so they're really young. They're like if I had like 7, 8 years old, if I had to guess.
Okay.
Um yeah, so there's kids in this orphanage and a couple of them want to find out, and I'll leave like the reasons for why they're doing this out because they're kind of spoilers, but they want to find out what's at the bottom of the abyss. So
Uh-huh.
they start going down into the abyss. And but the thing is something they establish before they actually go down to the abyss is that the abyss has a curse, and it works like this. It doesn't affect you while you're going down, it affects you while you're coming back up. So at
Interesting.
certain levels, the curse has different effects. So at one level, if you go up too much, you'll start bleeding out of every pore in your body. There's
Jeez.
an
That sounds horrible.
another level, it'll just make you kind of tired and drowsy. And there's a level where like more near the bottom, if you ascend from that level, I'm not going to spoil exactly what this means, but you'll lose your humanity.
Interesting.
Yeah, so each level has a different curse based on where you're ascending.
So it's not like a rack up of multiple. It's like depending on what level you're on, if you start going up from there, that's the one thing you're stuck with kind of thing.
No, you'll get all the others above that too.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Oh God. Oh my God. That sounds horrible.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. And so, but there's this basically this structure of these people who go down and explore the abyss, because basically there's this lore that one day the abyss just appeared, and this
Okay.
civilization kind of grew based on the abyss itself, because there's a city around the hole. It's literally just a giant hole with a city, like a ring city around it, and it that built up based on the abyss being there. And there's this hierarchy of abyss explorers called whistles, with different color designations. So the lowest color designation is a red whistle, and they're only permitted to go down to the first layer. And then you have the
Okay.
highest color designation, which is the white whistle. They're allowed to go down as far as they want. But you have to like earn your rank to be able to do that. So it's a really simple concept with a bunch of complex layers under it. I was kind of disappointed because it's only 13 episodes, and the next season, and it was released in like 2017, and the next season doesn't come
Yeah.
out until like I think next year. There are a bunch of movies with it, but I don't know if they're canon.
There's like three movies, and I heard they're all like really good.
Yeah, I might watch those too, but I have no idea if they're canon. But yeah, it's a really simple, interesting concept. It's kind of just they present this thing, and they slowly trickle details about it, and you're like, okay, well, what's at the bottom of the abyss? And that's kind of what keeps you watching, like what's at the bottom of the abyss.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I can understand.
yeah.
I can understand why that is a nice hook.
Hmm.
It's because you're always wondering what's below.
So yeah, then there are a bunch of character details that I could spoil, but I'm not going to do that. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's just a really simple concept, and I don't know. There's not much more I can say about it. I give it a solid 8. Like it's just
Did you already watch all of it?
yeah. I watched the
Okay.
first season, which is
All
the
right.
only season. But yeah, yeah. I'd recommend it. It's interesting. It is one of those shows that it doesn't give you much, but that's why it's interesting.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah. And so I have one more thing.
All
It's
right.
more. I'm not gonna really talk about it in detail right now. It's more of like a teaser. But I have started watching One Piece again.
Oh yeah, I saw you tweet about that. At first I was gonna be like, wow, really?
Yeah.
But
So
I forgot I saw you tweet about it.
I was gonna wait, but here's the reason. I told myself, because I stopped at like it was like episode 580ish from what I remember. I told myself when the dub gets to 700, I'll watch another arc, and the dub just got to 700.
Interesting.
And then also I'll watch this arc, and then I'll stop, and then when the dub gets to 800, I'll watch another arc, and then I'll kind of reassess from there. But yeah,
Where does I mean, do you know where 700 like does 700 end in arc or is it
well,
just
the reason I did that is because there hasn't been an arc yet that's been like over 100 episodes, so I was like, all right, I can watch one arc and get the whole
well, I
arc.
mean if you count Alabasta, I guess.
That was not 100 episodes.
I feel like it was.
Nah, that was like how long was Alabasta? That was like 60, I think.
Oh, I don't know. It's been so long. I
Yeah,
thought
or
it was
maybe
longer than that.
50. No, there hasn't been a 100 episode arc yet. Like I mean, I guess you could make the argument for the whole, um, you know, Marineford thing, but you'd have to include Sabaody and
Yeah,
uh,
impelled
but
down and
yeah, you'd have to include all that. But yeah, my reasoning was that okay, I'll get another arc in, and I'll be able to finish it. Um, so yeah, I'll talk I don't know when you're gonna restart that, but I can talk about that spoiler free
I
next
watched
time.
like the first like 2 episodes of Punk Hazard like 3 weeks ago, and for some reason I just got really bored, so I just dropped it again.
It
So
gets
like,
interesting fast. What was the last
yeah,
thing
I
you
don't know.
saw?
Them fighting a dragon.
Okay, yeah. That was where I
And I was like,
stopped. That was where I stopped actually.
okay, that was where I started because like on
Yeah.
Crunchyroll that's considered like the beginning, quote unquote, of Punk Hazard. So I was like, all right, I guess I'll watch it. And then I started watching it and I was like, I don't give two shits about this dragon. And then I just got bored. And then that's when I was like, you know what, maybe I'll start reading Haikyuu. That was like
Yeah.
randomly when I started like, so that must have been like 2 weeks ago, I guess.
Yeah,
But yeah,
it gets interesting fast. So, it does. I'll say this. Obviously, I'm not that far into it. I'm like maybe 15 episodes into it. There, it does a lot of shock appearances, and I'm not really a fan of that without teasing it a little bit. Like people just show up, but I'm just hoping that they explain that later.
okay.
Um,
Shock appearances as in people that we know of?
yes,
Okay.
and well, I guess you could say other people too, because I can't really say anything more than that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fine.
But yeah, that's all I got.
Well, we've both, from what I can think of, cleared our lists. So
Yeah.
I guess that's where we can officially call it.
All right. Thank you for watching. Leave a comment if you have something to say. Drop a like. Subscribe if you want more. There will be
do
more.
all that stuff.
My upload schedule is shit, but it is coming. Anyway,
We
all right.
record once a month and they get released once a month.
Yeah. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed. This has been episode 6 of Somewhat
6,
Distracted.
yeah, I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure 6.
All right. Sounds good. Have a good one, and we'll talk next time about a bunch of shit.
Goodbye.
Peace.